All right, got some random thoughts today, but I guess that pretty much describes the whole channel. So, but I got some random political, not really political per se, more like just geopolitical, foreign policy stuff. So the big thing going on right now is Trump. What I think is going on is he's negotiating with Ukraine. So basically, whoever he's insulting and he's building up leverage on, that's who he's negotiating with. So I think what this is about with Zelensky is, and I will preface this by saying that I am a little bit concerned because the one thing that I don't like 100% agree with Trump on is this Ukraine business, the way he goes about it. I'm probably even more like extreme right wing, at least the way I describe right wing, than he is. Like I honestly might consider intervening. I know so many MAGA people would, and I'm not saying like the U.S. directly intervenes. I'm saying like encouraging some kind of intervention, like encouraging like a Polish, Scandinavian, Baltic like coalition to intervene in this thing, backed by U.S. funding and weapons and stuff, because that's the only way that Russia is going to be deterred. That's the only way that Russia is going to be, removed from Ukraine. Those are basically the options. I mean, people have to accept the reality that the options are that Russia is going to get this territory because the current paradigm, it's not possible to get Russia out of there. I don't understand all these people with this wishful thinking. It's like, no, don't give up the land. Don't give up the land. It's like, the land's gone, guys. Do you have a plan to get it back? Because the only way to get it back is a foreign intervention. And most people don't want that. I mean, I'm not even sure I want that, but I'm saying that would be on the table for me, I think, like, sometimes we're just way too cautious. We're afraid it's going to start World War III. Like, is it? Is it going to start World War III? I don't know. Like, I think there's so much moral high ground that the West is able to occupy in this particular situation. I mean, it's naked aggression. So, and if you limit it in the way I'm talking about, you make it only what's necessary to dislodge Russia, which would be like, something led by Poland. Now, I'd have to look into the details of like the military situation, whether this coalition I'm talking about has the military strength to do it. They might not. I mean, the Europeans' militaries are pathetic, but something like that in principle, like the countries that really have an interest in stopping Russia, intervening with heavy American financial support and, weapons and stuff. No direct American and no direct Western European intervention. Or, I mean, you could even take it to a Western European intervention. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, like, what would be like economy of force, not only the actual force, but in terms of escalating. Like, what is a kind of intervention that stands a chance of not escalating, not, involving China and so forth. But I'm not necessarily saying that should happen. But for me, it would be a consideration. This whole part of MAGA that wants to just abandon Ukraine, I'm really suspicious. Like, I don't believe the stuff about like Trump being in the pocket of Russia. Obviously, I mean, the stuff's ridiculous, and Russia interfering in the election and stuff. But I do get curious sometimes. Like, why are these people so pro-Russian? I mean, is it just a political thing? Like, they're just so obsessed with domestic politics. And they know that the left hates Russia. And they know that Russia is not on board with all the woke things going on in the world. Russia's, a fairly conservative society. And so they feel some kind of kinship with Russia on that level. I understand that. And I do also think that in some sort of ideal world, it would be nice to not have Russia totally on the side of China. And there are some friction points between Russia and China that could theoretically be exploited. But I just don't think that's going to happen while Vladimir Putin is alive. Vladimir Putin is an old school KGB. The guy was raised on anti-Americanism. He has completely poisoned Russian society against the U.S. and the West. Like, it would take a long process of turning that thing around. Now, of course, he completely controls the thinking of the Russian society. So I guess if he decided to throw in with us, or at least, take a more neutral stance, then he would probably just start pumping out the propaganda, and they would instantly suck it up, because that's the way they are over there, unfortunately. But I just don't think. I just think if that's their thinking, that they're going to get Russia, on their side against China, I think it's far-fetched. I think it has, like I said, I think it has some merit. Like, it's not totally ludicrous, but it's pretty far-fetched at this point. What else? But anyway, what I think Trump is doing is, right now, I don't think he's abandoning Ukraine. At least I certainly hope he's not. But what I do think he's doing is negotiating with Ukraine right now. And like I said, whoever he's going after, he's basically negotiating with them. He's building up the leverage. And sometimes, like, he'll throw, like, his first offer. It's like in real estate. He's a real estate guy. A property's listed for $1 million. You go in there and you offer $500,000, and it's like, you already know you're not going to get it for $500,000, but you're trying to have this psychological impact of, like, yeah, your property's shit, man. It's only worth $500,000. Like, why give them an inch right at the beginning of negotiations? So he does this. He puts out these ridiculous things, like Greenland, Gaza, all Panama Canal. The only thing is, someone who's super right-wing like me, I get disappointed, because when he throws out these things, I think that's a great idea, even though I know in his mind he's not going to do it, or he's not going to get it. I'm like, that actually would be the right solution, like, especially with Gaza. We've just been going through this whole cycle over and over again for 75 years now. If we just do the same thing and we just leave the Palestinians in Gaza, no matter what else we do, we're going to be back to this spot. They're never going to give up their dream of destroying the Jews. They're always going to have support in the Muslim world, because that's the nature of Islam. That it's, it's hateful and it's supremacist, and it's never going to accept that Israel has 1 inch of land. The only possible long-term solution is to actually get the Palestinians out of there. I understand the objections to moving people, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do for the good of humanity. Like, these people are holding up peace and prosperity for a whole region. They've been doing it for generations, and they're not normal people. You saw what they just did with these babies. They paraded the babies' coffins around and had, like, pictures of, like, blood, and they're all cheering that they killed babies. I mean, come on, people. Accept the reality in front of your face that these people are not normal. It's not Israel's fault. It's not Israel's fault for existing and having white people and having Jewish people. That's not the problem. The problem is these people that are parading the bodies of babies around and cheering. There's cheering crowds, loving it. These people need to go somewhere. Now, a big part of the problem is the Arabs won't allow it, because the Arabs want that thorn in the side of Israel. They still believe in this dream of destroying the Jews. But another thing is, legitimately, they don't want these people either, because these people are absolutely nuts and will destabilize their regime wherever they go. So the only solution is to, like, disperse them out amongst a bunch of Arab countries, where there's so few of them in each country that they can be controlled. But even then, like, there's just reasons why the Arabs would never do it. Like, it would have to be forced on them. And I think that the Israelis missed a huge opportunity. And the reason why they probably missed the huge opportunity is because of Joe Biden, because they didn't have the support. But they should have just used how bad October 7th was, and the shock and awe of that happening. They should have right off the bat just friggin' driven the Palestinians out of Gaza. Or they should have at least driven all the Palestinians into southern Gaza and just annexed northern Gaza, and said, there's the consequences of what you've done. You've lost half of Gaza. You're all going to have to live in southern Gaza or go someplace else. That's the only thing. I'm sorry for all you candy asses out there that think the world works on being nice. That's how these things usually get resolved. The reason why we still have killing and babies being paraded in the streets 75 years later is because the damn thing has never been resolved. That's what needs to happen. That's my opinion. But I don't think that's actually Trump's opinion. I think Trump threw this out there because he was basically saying to the Arabs, you better send me a counteroffer. You better come up with some solution, or this is the consequence. It's just an opening bid. Same thing with Greenland. I actually would love to see us acquire Greenland. I don't think the Danes have any right. I mean, colonialism's over, people. What right do the Danes have to Greenland? You know what I mean? The Danes have as much right to Greenland as, Britain has to Kenya or whatever. Um, and the Danes cannot develop it. They're not developing it. And they cannot defend it from Russia and China. And keep in mind, I'm not talking about any kind of aggressive action. I'm talking about purchasing it at a fair price, just like, land's been purchased many times. We purchased Alaska. And I'm talking about a deal that greatly benefits the current residents of Greenland, which, keep in mind, there's very few of them. I mean, the place is essentially an Arctic wasteland. It's not like, it's a place that could be a viable independent country. It's only got 50,000 people there, but those 50,000 people could benefit greatly. I mean, instant American citizenship. They could instantly just come to the U.S. Without a visa, anything, get a job here. I mean, they could be given a stake, like in Alaska, where they actually get direct payments for the oil. They could get direct payments for the minerals. I mean, these people could become some of the richest people in the United States. The development that the U.S. would do there, I mean, their lives would just instantly become much better. Like, if they really were presented with this proposal of what truly would happen and how their lives would change, I think they'd be in favor of it. Right now, they're being, they're being roused up with these anti-American feelings and these, Greenland nationalist feelings, which are just ridiculous. Greenland can never be a viable country. They would just be a ward of some country anyway. Like, basically, they'd probably be like, we want to be independent, but then the U.S. come, pay for everything because we're not a viable state. We can't feed ourselves, for Christ's sake. So, and the danger there, of course, is that it could be China that would come in and do that. And China would demand to basically control Greenland. I mean, it would be the same thing, but the Chinese would just do it a different way because they're a lot more duplicitous and devious than the U.S. The U.S. would just flat up say, hey, we just want to buy you. We want you. We want to give you full citizenship. We want to make you a state. Eventually, maybe if your population gets to the point where you could be a state. So I am actually for Greenland. This is another one where he disappoints me. I don't think he realistically thinks he's going to be able to acquire Greenland. I think this is an opening bid where his ultimate goal is just to be able to have more of a say in Greenland, and it stays under Danish control. He gets more military bases. He gets some kind of deal to mine there and all that stuff. And so I think that the thing with Zelensky right now is basically he has this rare earth minerals deal that he's presenting to Zelensky, and it seemed to me from the reporting I've read that he initially had a deal. And then Zelensky went and talked to the Europeans or whatever, and they're all anti-American, and they're all just living in some dream world where whatever they want to happen can just happen, even though it doesn't make any sense. No, tell Donald Trump to fuck off. Tell him he has to just keep giving you money for nothing. Don't give him anything in return for his money. And then Zelensky's like, yeah, fuck Trump. Just keep giving me money. I'm rescinding this deal. I'm not giving you any mining rights or anything. And what Trump is doing right now is just presenting him with reality. It's like, look, you don't have the leverage. You need me. And all I'm asking for is something in return for what I'm giving you. I'm giving you a fair deal. It's economic development for Ukraine that, yes, the U.S. benefits from and you benefit from. What's wrong with that? How come it has to only be you benefit and then, but we just have to be altruistic? We're the only country in the world where we're constantly being called upon to be altruistic. Everyone else needs to get something. Like these reciprocal tariffs, people actually have the unmitigated gall to be upset that we're doing reciprocal tariffs when it's literally just doing the exact same thing that you're doing. Like, it's unbelievable that this has even been going on for years. People talk about free trade, but it hasn't been free trade. It's been we're doing free trade and Europe is tariffing us. So we say, oh, you have a 10% tariff on us, put a 10% tariff on you. And everybody flips shit, including our own media. Somebody asked Trump a question, what can the Europeans do to stop this from happening? And Trump's literally like, what do you mean? It's a reciprocal tariff. We're just doing the exact same thing they do. So you're saying that the world should be stacked against the U.S. The rules should be stacked against us. They should be able to do a 25% tariff and we do a 0 tariff. That's how do we get back to doing that? Like, what planet are we living on? I don't know. I get it that we're just so much more prosperous and powerful that we've had a tendency to like feel altruistic about things and basically, do trade deals that are basically just charity to the other country. That's essentially what we've been doing. But we just can't do that anymore. Because even though we are still that powerful, we have our own problems. We have a huge deficit, huge national debt. We have, for the first time in our history, we have a power that's a legitimate threat to exceed us in power. Like, we need to focus on that. We need a real partner now in Europe. We don't need a ward. We don't need a vassal. We don't need somebody that just relies on us to give them favorable trade deals and protect them by spending massive amounts on defense while they spend nothing on defense. We need an actual partner that can hold our eastern flank, that can actually be a counterweight to Russia so that we can go and focus on China. And it would be good if they could, handle other things in their area, like North Africa and the Middle East and stuff. That might be too much to ask, for Christ's sake. But if they could at least handle their own business in Europe and, truly be an ally and truly be a partner, that would be fantastic. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on what's going on foreign policy wise. Again, I'm not sure I 100% agree with Trump's stance on Ukraine. I think he's got some crazy people in his ear, like Tucker Carlson, which I do not agree with that guy's worldview whatsoever. But my hope, the positive interpretation, is that this is all just the Trump method. Right now, he's negotiating with Zelensky, so that's the target of his leverage. He's going to get as much leverage on Zelensky, and then when he lines up Zelensky the way he wants, then the negotiation with Russia will truly start. And these zealots that just keep living in this fantasy world that somehow Ukraine's going to win and Russia's just going to be totally blown out of the country and Ukraine's going to get all its land back, they're going to be disappointed and they're going to blame Trump. That's just the way it is. They're going to blame Trump for reality when this is all said and done. But that's just, it just is what it is. That's reality. They're not going to get their land back. We know that. What I'm looking at is the other aspects of the deal that eventually emerges. Like, what does Ukraine get in return for losing all this land? They need to get rock solid security guarantees. They need to get European troops in there. They need to get all kinds of European investment in there. They're basically going to have to exist as an armed camp, but at the same time, they're going to have to be built up economically to the hilt as an example that it's better to not be part of Russia. It's basically back to the same Cold War shit, like South Korea. They're going to have to be South Korea. They're going to have to be protected, and then they're going to have to be invested into the hilt to show that it's better to be part of the free world. That's what I'm looking to have happen. Now, again, just to be clear, if I could wave a wand and make the Russian army collapse and get completely humiliated and driven out of Ukraine, I would certainly do that. I've even said at the beginning of this video that I would have seriously considered intervening to make sure Russia's defeated. But that just doesn't seem to be the reality we're living in. So our alternative is the South Korean model. Yes, they're going to lose territory, but they need to have a serious security guarantee. Now, we don't want to totally provoke Russia to continue this on. because I think if we can drive some kind of a wedge between Russia and China and make Russia not just like hell bent on our destruction, that would be good. But even besides that, you have to do something there that's a long-term solution, and just having some unacceptable situation to Russia is not going to work either. However, the Ukraine's security has to be just totally secured, like just guaranteed. Maybe not NATO, but it has to be like a serious troop presence of serious countries that are going to be, tripped into fighting Russia if Russia attacks. And then massive economic development. Anyway, I'll have my weight loss update probably tomorrow. See ya.